Welcome to Buddha's Path. Learn and practice Buddhism. One stormy night, in a village where many doors were closed by fear, one poor woman opened hers with kindness. She had almost nothing left to give, just a little rice, a little warmth, and a heart that still refused to turn cold. By morning, that single act of compassion would change not only a stranger's life, but the spirit of an entire village. Tonight, I want to share a Buddhist tale about kindness, a simple and gentle story that reminds us that the purest acts often come from those who have the least, and that mercy given in silence can return as blessings beyond anything we expect. Long ago, in a quiet village surrounded by rice fields and bamboo groves, there lived an elderly widow named Molly. Her home was small and worn. Rain slipped through parts of the roof in the wet season, and in the dry months, dust gathered in the corners of her floor. She owned very little: a clay jar for water, a few cooking bowls, an old blanket, and a tiny patch of earth where she grew herbs and vegetables. Molly's life was not easy. Her husband had passed away many years before, and she had no children to care for her. Each day she worked slowly with tired hands, gathering what she could, eating little, speaking little, and asking nothing from anyone. And yet, the villagers often said something curious about her. They would whisper, "She is poor, but her face is peaceful." Each morning before sunrise, Molly lit a small oil lamp before a simple image of the Buddha. She bowed her head and spoke the same quiet prayer. "May my mind stay gentle. May my words bring peace. May my hands do no harm. May I meet the world with kindness." Then she began her day. Not far from her hut lived a wealthy merchant named Saman. He owned large storehouses full of rice and silk, and his home was bright with polished wood and lantern light. But though his hands were full, his heart was restless. He often mocked Molly's simple life. "One cannot live on kindness," he once said with a laugh. "Compassion fills no bowl and repairs no roof." Molly only smiled. She did not argue. Some truths do not need defending. One evening, near the height of the rainy season, dark clouds swallowed the sky before sunset. Wind bent the bamboo low, and thunder rolled across the hills like a warning drum. Villagers hurried inside and barred their doors. Lamps were lowered. Fires were covered. No one wanted trouble on a night like that. Inside her hut, Molly looked at the small amount of food she had left: a handful of rice, some greens from her garden, and enough broth to make one thin meal. It would have to carry her through the night and perhaps part of the next day. As the rain began to strike the roof, she sat beside the pot and listened to the storm. Then came a knock. It was soft at first, nearly lost beneath the wind. Then again, 3 slow knocks. Molly froze. No one visited at such an hour. For a moment, fear rose in her chest. She remembered stories of thieves on distant roads, of strangers who lied, of trusting hearts left broken. She looked at her door, then at her small pot of soup. If someone entered with violence or deceit, she had no way to protect herself. If she shared what little food she had, she herself would go hungry. The knock came once more, weaker this time. Molly stood very still. In that quiet moment, another voice arose inside her, not from fear, but from practice. It was the echo of her morning prayer. "May my mind stay gentle. May my words bring peace." She took a slow breath, steadied herself, and opened the door. Outside stood a man soaked by rain. His robe was torn by travel, mud covered his legs, and one hand gripped a worn walking stick. His face looked pale with fever, and his lips trembled from cold. "Forgive me," he said softly. "I have walked a long road. I asked for shelter, but no one opened. Could I rest here until the storm passes? Even a place near your door would be enough." Molly looked at him carefully. He was a stranger. He was weak. He was suffering, and she was afraid. But she also saw something deeper than his appearance. She saw exhaustion, hunger, and a human being standing at the edge of despair. "Come in," she said quietly. "No one should be left outside on a night like this." The traveler lowered his head with gratitude and stepped inside. Molly gave him the driest cloth she had. She placed him near the small fire and poured water into a cup. Then she lifted the pot and divided the soup into 2 bowls. The man noticed at once how little there was. "You should keep more for yourself," he said. Molly shook her head. Food shared in kindness nourishes more than one body. They ate in silence while rain battered the roof. The broth was thin, the rice was plain, and the hut was humble. Yet to the weary traveler, it felt like a temple of peace. After a while, he asked, "Why did you help me when others would not?" Molly looked into the fire before answering. "I was afraid," she said honestly. "My heart did not open without struggle. But suffering is suffering, whether it stands in silk or in rags. If I protect my little comfort and abandon compassion, then I become poorer than I already am." The traveler's eyes filled with tears. Later, Molly gave him her only blanket and slept on a woven mat near the wall. Hunger tugged at her stomach, and the wind still slipped through the cracks of the hut. But before she closed her eyes, she sat in stillness and followed her breath. Inhale, exhale. She sent loving kindness first to the stranger, then to the fearful villagers, then even to those who had once mocked her. Finally, she included herself. May all beings be safe. May all beings be at peace. At dawn, the storm had passed. The sky opened in pale gold, and drops of rain clung to the leaves outside like tiny jewels. When Molly awoke, the traveler was standing near the doorway, stronger now, with calm in his face. "I must go," he said, "but before I leave, I want you to know who stood at your door last night." From inside his robe, he drew out a sealed pouch. "I am a servant from a monastery in the next province. I was carrying relief funds and supplies for villages damaged by the storms. I lost my way, fell ill, and sought help here. I knocked on many doors. Yours was the only one that opened." He placed the pouch in Molly's hands. It was heavy. Inside were gold coins. Molly's eyes widened, and she quickly tried to return it. "No," she said. "I did not offer kindness to receive reward." The traveler smiled gently. "That is why you are worthy of receiving it. But hear me well, this is not a price for your kindness. True kindness cannot be bought. Think of this as a blessing entrusted to a heart that already understands compassion." Molly was silent for a long moment. Then she took only a few coins and gave the rest back. "This is enough for my needs," she said. "Please use the remainder for those who are hungry, sick, and alone." The traveler bowed deeply. "Your mercy is greater than your poverty." Word of what had happened spread through the village before noon. The merchant Salmon heard it and felt shame rise in his chest. He remembered the knock he had ignored. Others remembered how they had chosen safety without compassion, comfort without mercy. And for the first time, many of them saw clearly that fear had narrowed their hearts. But Molly did not scold them. She did not speak proudly. She simply continued her life as before. Yet her kindness began to move through the village like sunlight after rain. Saman sent rice to widows who lived alone. A farmer repaired a broken fence for an elderly neighbor. Children began sharing their food more readily. A young mother started bringing warm tea each evening to a sick old man at the edge of the village. Molly had not preached a single sermon. She had only opened her door. And that was enough to remind everyone of a quiet Buddhist truth. Every act plants a seed. A seed of fear grows into isolation. A seed of greed grows into emptiness. But a seed of compassion, watered by patience and mindfulness, grows into peace, for ourselves and for others. This is why kindness matters so deeply in the Buddhist path. It is not weakness. It is courage with a gentle face. It is the choice to remain soft in a world that teaches us to harden. It is the practice of seeing ourselves in the suffering of another. Sometimes we think we have nothing to give, but perhaps we can offer a calm word, a patient pause, a listening ear, a forgiving heart, or a meal divided in two. And often, that is more powerful than we know. So if you are carrying pain today, remember Molly. If you feel unnoticed, remember Molly. If your hands seem empty, remember this: a kind heart is never empty. The smallest act of mercy can warm a cold night, heal a weary spirit, and awaken goodness in people who had forgotten it was there. Thank you for spending this peaceful time with Buddha's Path. Learn and practice Buddhism. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And may your days be guided by mindfulness, your words be filled with compassion, and your life become a quiet blessing to everyone you meet.